Think of the passion, God love everlasting. Keep the law of the land and book in case you're asking. Moving forward to the learning and it's free. Cause I know that God know the combo go with Sister E. Love talk Sister E. God work Sister E. Charity Sister E. Let's talk with Sister E. All different type of information every week. Let me speak. If you subscribe, we're going deep. Love talk Sister E. God's work Sister E. Charity Sister E. Let's talk with Sister E.
What's up, good people? What's up, y'all? I am exhausted, but I do need to play this, y'all. All right, so before we get started, I am actually going to do a quick promo. We are in the process of doing the next event, which will be in Savannah, Georgia, which will be our next African Israelite Justice Foundation conference. It will be at the end of June. So let me go ahead and play this little promo real quick. Benaiah did this one. Hopefully he ain't gonna be mad because he just sent it to me. So I was like, yep, you sent it to me, I'm finna play it. Here we go.
Shalom, family. It's your brother Benaiah Ben Israel, and I would like to invite you to join us in historic Savannah, Georgia, one of the first places inhabited by the Israelites of Spain and Portugal. On June the 27th through the 29th, the African Israelite Justice Foundation will host a conference which will include, but not limited to, historic Savannah tours, a visit to First African Baptist Church, Truth Music Concert, and the conference event. Don't miss this opportunity to learn more about your history and culture and how to survive in the Daughter of Babylon. You don't want to miss this historic event, family. So mark your calendars and sign up today. Hope to see you in Savannah, Georgia on June the 27th through the 29th for yet another Israelite gathering. And with that, family, I hope to see you soon, and I bid you shalom.
What's up? What's up? Hold on, y'all. All right, I'm back. Did y'all hear everything? Who's Dwayne Jackson and why he laughing? That's what I want to know. Hold on one second. My house is loud. So I want to know what Dwayne Jackson laughing at. So y'all come on out to Savannah. Here's my dog, y'all. Let me make sure. Oh, there you go. He right there. I have to watch him because y'all need to come on out. So y'all want to get straight to the business. Come on, y'all. So I'm gonna send this to Gardis. Invite people to this conversation. Y'all been keeping up with what's been going on with this trade, this tariff war? Y'all, me and Wiggins had a long talk about it, and I'm mad because I can't find him to talk about this with him. Y'all, this tariff war is going to turn in. I think it's going to turn into a world war. I really think that. Dwayne, why are you laughing at our commercial? You don't like our commercial? Come on now, don't do that. but with that being said, y'all, that tariff war is getting ready to turn into a war. Let's look at it. All right. I got a couple of things going on I want to show y'all. Um, so let's look at it. So let me see. Tariff War. Tariff War. Here we go. So this came out about an hour ago. I'm gonna play this for y'all. I saw this today. When I saw this, I said, "This, are you Dwayne from Clubhouse?" I'm thinking that you are. I'm thinking that you are. But with that being said, what's going on, Gardis? I'm finna play this video real quick.
Okay.
Hold on. And then we can get started. This finna be interesting. Saw this today.
Thanks, Caroline. On the president's threat yesterday on social media to increase tariffs against China by an additional 50% in response to their retaliation, has he signed anything in terms of an executive order, any documentation around that? Will that additional 50% go into effect tomorrow?
They will be going into effect at 12:01 a.m. tonight, so effectively tomorrow. Yes. Look, I just spoke to the president about this, and he believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight. But the president believes that she and China want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started. And the president also wanted me to tell all of you that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
So China has to call first?
The Chinese want to make a deal. They just don't know how to do it. But the president will be implementing these 104% tariffs on China tonight.
Under what conditions might he consider lowering tariffs on China at this point?
It would be imprudent of me to tell you those conditions here from the podium. I do just want to point out one thing, that the president, everybody in Washington, whether they want to admit it or not, knows that this president is right when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to trade. In fact, Democrats have long said that the United States of America has been ripped off by the countries around the world. They just don't want to admit it now because it's President Trump who is saying that. In June of 1996, Nancy Pelosi spoke on the House floor. She urged her colleagues at the time to fight against the status quo trade policies that had contributed to America's trade deficit with China. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said, "How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit? How many jobs have to be lost for the American workers? How much dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, 'I will not endorse the status quo'?" Those are the words of Nancy Pelosi in 1996. Well, President Trump is finally answering her call 27 years later. Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China. In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future economic growth. And Chuck Schumer said that in 2007. Finally, in 2025, President Trump is taking action.
Hello, my brother Gardis.
What's going on, Sister E?
You sound like you look like you just didn't had a full week. It's been a rough week.
I did.
You look like you just like, I'm over it. I'm just ready for Saturday.
Yeah, I am. And it's really no relaxing tomorrow either. So.
Oh, bless your heart. Nigga, you is on this live. You've been watching this Sunday seminary chat. It's been so much going on this week.
Ooh, yeah, exactly.
And it's still heated. So we gotta bring the brothers together. Oh my gosh. So what are your thoughts? I'm gonna let you go first. I ain't gonna hog the conversation. But you know what my thoughts are. I wish J Mac would come up here because J Mac was like adamant in the chat. He was so irritated with me. And I'm sitting here like, I wouldn't consider myself to be a Republican or a Democrat. I just look at the facts and then just make a decision. So what I'm seeing with Trump is, well, you go ahead first and I'm gonna shut up and then
I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
So I honestly think, and this is just my thinking pattern. Bear with me.
Hmm.
As much as I don't like some of the stuff that Trump does, this does not seem like it's bad, because ultimately, not bad in the sense of the word, there won't be any repercussions. But when you look at all the amount of money that these countries have been charging us just for imports and exports, you got to be like, okay, come on now, y'all. So I think the tariffs are a direct retaliation against what China has been doing, because yet and still they're charging all this money, but they're doing things to make sure they don't have to pay. So I think Trump is just holding their feet to the fire. And think about it, the more I'm gonna leave it right there. So what's your thoughts?
You know, I've been listening to other economists actually in this country and also outside of this country, because I also been looking at uh, CCTV in China. I've been keeping in touch with the Financial Times, which is based out of London, Reuters, which is based out of Germany, because I'm not really, I really don't consume just American media. I want to see what the world is talking about. Um, I was looking at a South African newspaper online.
Have you seen the
Yeah,
China Observer? I think that's what it calls. What they said talking about China, some of China's factories are impacted right now.
yeah, but here's the thing. So the trade wars basically is just a reaction to the decline of the U.S. dollar,
Yep.
and I think the U.S. dollar is heading to a sharp decline, and this is basically Trump's reaction to it. Many people feel like the numbers that he brings out as far as the trade deficit is not accurate. Matter of fact, there are some who argue that trading between China and United States is just about even. And I was reading a Chinese economist who was trying to prove that. But in a sense, like I said, it's basically a tactic to try to revitalize the dollar. I don't think this has anything to do with him trying to bring industry, even though he says he's trying to bring industry. Tariffs is not the way you bring back industry. I think we talked about this on your last show. The
Mm-hmm.
only way you bring back industry is if the government invests in policies that create the infrastructure and also educate the the engineers and also the workers to bring back said industry. Now, what's interesting is, as much as I'm not much of a Joe Biden fan. He did attempt to bring back industry through a chip deal that he was doing. He tried to open up a chip manufacturing plant in Arizona. However, what happened was it was
Skill
it was
set.
it was so much of a failure because of the fact that you don't put a chip manufacturing plant in the middle of a desert, because you need water.
Oh yeah.
And also too, because of the
That
fact,
seems like that's intentional now.
I mean, look, I'm not saying he was successful in it, but at least he had a concept of of uh how to bring back industry, and he was doing it through a policy. And so he tried to bring back, he tried to put a plant in Arizona. And then another thing too, they didn't have enough workers or engineers that knew about manufacturing chips. So guess what they had to do? They had to import the labor from where? China and Taiwan, because they're one of the few people on this earth who know how to mass produce chips on a grand level. So I would say this,
The skill
to his,
set. Yep.
to his credit, he did try, even though it was a failure, because just like just like with Trump, he's trying to have this trade war with China as well. Let's not forget, Joe Biden also attempted to. I mean, he didn't repeal any of the tariffs that Trump put on China in his first term. So he basically tried to continue that trade war with China. Now, Trump, on the other hand, is trying to basically bring all of the other countries in this particular fight because
Yeah.
he knows that having a direct trade war with China, he's not going to win that.
You
So
don't
what is
think so?
no, no, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen, because there are estimates that the Chinese economy
Did
is
gardens freeze up? Okay, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. There's estimate that 19% of the global economy is run by China. 19%.
Mm,
So I mean, if they suddenly decided to stop trading with each other, obviously China will take a hit. But I think I said this on your last show. I think China is much more equipped to take a hit on their economy than the United States is.
correct. So, because
Because
you know what, the problem with United States, and I'm just gonna chime in and you continue. They
Mhm,
they cut their what is it nose to spite their face,
mhm.
and they did a lot of the outsourcing. These greedy corporations wanted to outsource, and you ended up outsourcing not just the work, but and what happens is when you need that skill set in your country, you're going to ensure that the schools teach the curriculum needed so they can take these jobs. And they were too busy trying to infrastructure to not just support their own people, but also build pipelines to ensure that our people don't get access. And I think that this has ended up shooting them in the foot ultimately. Because the thing is, you've given your people so much access that they feel like they don't have to get the necessary education and skill set to be able to hold these type of jobs because they're leaning on outsourcing as well. And then the person that looks like me, you just trying to figure out how to do a prison to pipeline. Was it prison pipe? Was it school to prison pipeline that you skipped over us and said we're not going to teach y'all anything. We're just going to pretty much make sure that the ones that do make it, we're gonna let y'all know just enough. Whereas China doesn't have a racial construct like we have. So education is more accessible to certain ones, well, to all of them, rather than here it's just like this racial construct kind of end up biting them. And I might be wrong. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, the Chinese economy is very much monolithic in terms of ethnicity, because obviously majority of their population is Chinese. But
Yep.
but you gotta also look at how they have set up their economy compared to the world in the last 50 years. Now,
Uh-huh.
if this was maybe this was 10 years ago, um, or maybe 15 years ago, if I was China, I'd be worried because
Hmm.
during that time they weren't set up like they are now. But because of the fact that China dominates the global supply chain, um, half of your products from Walmart is from China.
Yep, because
O-
these
Over,
corporations outsource everything.
yeah, probably over half.
Yep.
I'm probably giving a generous estimate. When you look at your car parts, when you look
Outsource.
at yeah, I mean a lot of it, even the American made cars, a
Yep.
lot of the parts come from China, Vietnam, or whatever Far East Asian company is in there. And so the way they have integrated within the global supply chain, giving stuff to not just the United States, but also ASEAN, which is the I forgot the acronym, but it's basically all of the Southeast Asian states like Vietnam and Indonesia and India, and these are actually economies that they're the fastest growing economy in the last 10 years. When you're talking about Indonesia, when you're talking about Vietnam,
Vietnam. Yep.
these economies are growing significantly along with China. So all of these growing economies are basically getting together. Uh, take for instance also Russia. Russia and China historically have been enemies, but because of the fact that the United States and the
It's a
European
common
Union,
enemy.
yeah, they have basically drawn those two together because of the fact that the United States uh, is not the lone superpower in the world.
What's the
So
phrase? Enemy of my enemy
is your friend.
is your
So
friend.
so now that they've drawn closer to each other, the trade between those two have actually boosted their economy. The reason why Russia didn't go into the tank when they put the economic sanctions on them because of the Ukraine war is because of the fact that they export to China. China buys a lot of their oil. China buys a lot of their products. And you notice, the United States basically attempted to sanction or tell countries not to buy from Russia. And you saw they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, so
Yep.
Germany wouldn't get that gas no more. No, none of Europe could get that gas no more. But guess what? They didn't tell China that because they knew China wasn't going to listen. They wasn't going to listen. So, what was your question? Did you have a question? I'm
I
sorry.
think I think the biggest thing, and it was more of a statement than a question. I think the United States ultimately shot themselves in the foot. It goes beyond 10 years. You got NAFTA that hit with Clinton. You had Reaganomics to come in, and that was the beginning. Reagan was the beginning of the end of the industrial worker or the factory worker at that time, or having plants to be able to support, because at that time and the thing is, I'm only speaking from experience. My dad was working for a plant in Tennessee when I was a little kid, and he was able to maintain a family house. It was very good income. Health insurance was 100, it wasn't 80/20, it was 100% back then.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was good, and then all of a sudden Reagan came in and started interacting more with China, and they started offshore. My dad worked for John Deere. They offshored that to John Deere. John Deere got hit hard, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
um you had the steel mills out of Gary, Indiana. I got lost over there about a couple of years ago, and it's now a ghost town. And but you remember at that time that those neighborhoods were flourishing. And the reason I brought that up, a lot of the people that were making a lot of money with the black middle class families, they were able
Mm-hmm.
to feed and take care of their families. And then ultimately what happened was the plants started moving over into Indonesia, China, all the different, Asian nations, and they could charge cheap labor. They didn't have to do health insurance. They didn't have to pay, at that time, $7, $17 an hour in the 80s. That's like making money. They didn't have to do that back then. I mean, when they moved over, they could pay somebody $2 an hour and didn't have to give them any health insurance in some of those countries, and they came out better. Great example. India is a great example. Um, um, I remember when IT started outsourcing to India, and I couldn't understand, why is IT outsourcing to India? Somebody who makes a salary of $150,000 a year, you can have the same salary in India for 20,000.
Mm-hmm. And also too, not all of those steel factories closed in the 80s. I mean, got sent overseas in the 80s. Some of them actually closed because if you remember too, United States in the 80s was buying their steel from Japan because if you remember, Japan was
Yep.
the threat in the 80s because just like China is now, they were manufacturing a lot of stuff, especially a lot of electronic parts.
Yep.
Electronic parts was their big thing. And you saw Japan become a very much rising economy. But then when the yen, when the you, what is it, the Japan currency started to get big, and it started to become more demanding than say the U.S. dollar. Reagan uh, decided to bring together
He was saying something good,
it
and
was
you just froze up.
Japan.
How you said Reagan was starting to what? You froze up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So because of the fact that Japan was rising so fast, Reagan got Japan together, got West Germany, France, and there was another country that he got together, and they signed something called the Plaza Accords.
Oh
And the
wow.
plot in the Plaza Accords,
This
many
why y'all, let me pause. This is why I like talking to Gardis. Because Gardis, come on, finish. She said Plaza what?
the Plaza Accords. Many people feel like the Plaza Accords is the reason why Japan's economy had tanked in the 90s, because the problem was that because Japan was a rising power, the United States had to stop that, and because of the fact that they still had military bases in Japan, they still kind of had control of Japan because America has been occupying Japan since like World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to stop that, and they signed the Plaza Accords, and they basically devalued a lot of Japan's economy and their basic currency. So
Mm.
so
So
so what's happening now, because um what's happening now is you're seeing something that many people thought that Japan was going to be the next superpower, if you remember. Now, there was a guy back in the 90s named Zygmunt Brzezinski. He wrote this book called The Grand Chessboard. And he talked about how it wasn't going to be Japan that was going to be the next superpower. He said back in 97 that China was going to be the next superpower. And
wow.
people had thought he was out of his mind because China at that time was a marginal country. Yes, they were a large country. They still had the most people, but they were still trying to develop their economy, and they were very much dependent on the United States, because if you remember, that was during a time where a lot of industry in our country was shipping factories over to China and getting that cheap labor. This is why we had a lot of backlash, because of the fact that there were many human rights violations that China was committing, because they were having children working in the sweatshops for like
Yep.
12 or 14 hours a day, having women working in these sweatshops, and they were basically a country that was still dependent on the United States. But Zygmunt Brzezinski, who actually was, I believe he was Jimmy Carter's chief economist, had said and wrote that book, The Grand
He's
Chessboard,
enough.
that China was going to be the next superpower. And and sure enough, he was right. He was absolutely right. So because of the fact that China studied Japan, because I remember there was an economist that was on one of China's platforms that was talking about how many Chinese people had hit, many Chinese economists had studied Japan's economic collapse, and they wasn't going to sign another Plaza Accord with the United States, which is why China is standing strong, because they have the infrastructure to withstand the United States, because of the fact that, like I said, they're in the global supply chain. They got this thing called the Belt and Road Initiative, which they've been freely trading with many countries in the world, especially.
Mm. So they already built trade relationships that they can be able to manage without any help from the US.
Yes, and this is why the European Union is in this quandary right now, because uh, Europe buys a lot of stuff from China, and the thing is, with the United States all on their backs saying, "Well, you can't do this. You got to." This is why Trump had basically just blindly just threw out tariffs, because of the fact that he's forcing all the countries in the world to pick a side. Either you're going to
Mm.
do it with us or you're going to do it with China. And so a lot of people are in these holding patterns, especially the European Union, Vietnam, because they feel like, what should we do? Because many of these countries are neutral. And like take for instance Vietnam, even though they have good trade relations with China, they still wanted to keep their trade relations with the United States. As a matter of fact, I think I read somewhere that Vietnam's top one of the top officials was going to call a meeting to invite Chinese leaders and EU leaders to talk
Mm.
about this whole trade war.
Oh wow. Every time you come up here, I don't even argue with you. I just be like, come on, Garnis, give us the information. I ain't never argue with you. I always love talking to you. Um, so it seems like China has, and you can finish. I'm just throwing this out here. It seems as if, like I said a minute ago, China has built relationships and networks outside of the U.S. And due to those relationships, definitely with trade, U.S. has pretty much isolated themselves, and now the countries have to pretty much make a decision of U.S. or China.
Basically, because because while the United States is China's biggest customer, it's not its only customer.
Yep.
Now, like I said, they will get hurt, if they don't trade, if they don't export to the United States. But like I said, they've got several other countries, and also too the bigger issue, not just with China, but the BRICS nations,
Yeah.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. This alliance, which was formed 15 years ago, many people didn't feel like they were going to become this big because of the fact that you got the rising economy of China, you got the rising economy of India, you got a major economy in Russia, and now you got several other countries who have put in applications to the BRICS. BRICS is actually trying to get Vietnam in it, and while they have been kind of like an observer nation in it, they haven't officially joined yet. And this is why Trump was talking about, if you join the BRICS, then it's over for you. You're not going to trade with us. So he's basically directing that to countries like Vietnam, who has been putting their applications for the BRICS. But an oil country like Saudi Arabia is in the BRICS, and so when you're talking about the economy shifting from the G7 nations economy, when you're talking about the major Western economies like the United States, Canada, Great Britain, France, and several of the other countries, they're shifting away to BRICS. Now, if you look at BRICS as far as the population, 40% of the population, the is of the world's population is in BRICS, along with the economy. Almost half of the world's economy is in BRICS. So BRICS is not only trying to formulate they have already formulated an economic alliance, but they're also trying to bring a global currency, which is pissing off the United States, because for the last 70 years, the global currency was the American dollar.
Yep.
It was the American dollar.
Petro.
And
Yep.
so when countries traded with each other, they traded in dollars. When countries had to buy oil from any country, they bought it in American dollars. Now that they're shifting away from that. BRICS hasn't officially come with their currency yet, but it's coming. But right now, the BRICS nations are basically trading in their own currency. They're not trading in American dollars no more. They're trading in their own currency. And when they come with their own currency, because the BRICS already have a bank, which actually rivals the World Bank. So right now they
Yeah.
are progressing along where they're going to rival, or matter of fact, they're already rivaling in some cases. But once their currency comes into circulation,
That's it. And it
your
goes
your
against the central bank. Yep.
your dollar is just going to be a piece of paper that you can use the bathroom with.
Man, I love to hear your breakdowns. And the biggest thing is before now, I think this is going to lead to a war, if anything, because the U.S. is pretty much As much as they don't want to go to war, I think it's going to lead to war. Either it's going to be something that causes us, because I mean, the writing is on the wall. They're not standing down. Trump is not finna stand down, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. What are your thoughts?
Well, a lot of his billionaire friends are not happy with what's going on because they have investments in these countries.
Yep.
And I think when we was talking last time, the tariffs aren't charged to the country; it's charged to the company. That's that the
Yep.
industry, yeah, that the company's in. So if you realistically look at it, China's not going to take a lot of those tariffs because of the fact that there's American companies in China.
Yep.
And if they're talking about exporting stuff like Apple's in China. So Apple's about to take a hit. A lot of their stocks are going to fall because that's going to be on Apple. Now they're trying to encourage Apple to come on back, but like I said, people just, I mean, this is not
You just-
your typical office where you buy a building somewhere and you just take the files up and move and just go. No, the industry thing is much more complicated than that, and it takes years to process that, those factories and other things that it took years to get over there. And from my understanding, China has made a deal with these American companies where if they move their factories, they are going to pay a heavy tax from moving. And this is probably why they feel like this whole trade war is going on, because of the fact that American companies are going to feel the brunt, whether they stay there or whether they leave. They're going to be paying somebody.
So China's going to charge them a heavy tax if Apple leaves.
Yes.
And majority, what's the percentage? I guess to look at it from that standpoint, what is the percentage of phones that they sell or devices that they sell versus here and in China?
Well,
Because
all of your, most probably all of your phones are being manufactured in China.
so if
Because
they tax them, are they taxing them to import the phones into China?
no, they're taxing them. So they build the phones in China, and what they're going to do is they're going to tax Apple to ship the phones over here. So when it gets to the port, a tariff is going to be charged to the particular company.
What China?
And
I'm confused. So is China gonna? How is China gonna do the same thing to Apple?
well, no, that's if Apple decides to leave. That they're
And
going to be
they're
they're going
gonna
to
put
be
a tariff on Apple to ship devices over there.
well, I wouldn't consider it a tariff, but it would be
A
kind
tax.
of like a tax. I remember hearing somebody talk about that, and because the deal that they made, it's going to hurt that company to move over, move back over to the United States if they try.
Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. The man that has been trying to debate me for the past 2 years is up here, Mr. Dwayne himself. What's up, Dwayne? I gotta give him a hard time every single time I go to Clubhouse. He's like, "So when we gonna do that debate?" I'm
Oh,
like, first and foremost, give me a minute to breathe.
I'm trying to connect to my earpiece right now. Give me a second.
All right, Dwayne. But going back to your point, so what you're saying is, if let's say Apple moves over into the U.S. and Apple tries to send devices over to China to sell, they're going to tax them for that.
oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, right now the tariff on China from parts coming from the United States to China is what, over 100%, right?
Yep. It's
If I'm not mistaken.
125.
Yes, 125%. So yeah, but that
Yeah.
process of Apple moving their factories over to here, that's going to be years and years.
Yep. Because you don't have the skill set. People have to be trained to be able to do that type of mass production. And the U.S. was known for being able to be the innovators because of like Ford. Ford created the assembly line. And they were known for that. And instead of cultivating that and developing it more and keeping the skill set here, they did not keep it and they sent it over there. And a skill set that the US was known for, they lost it. We were known for mass production. Like I said, Ford, I think was it Ford? Ford Carline created the assembly line
Hmm.
when dealing with putting cars together. And because they had their skill set and they knew how to do mass production, that skill set is no longer here anymore. And I get what you're saying, it's going to hurt them now, because if they come over here, they're going to have to look at the skill set and say, okay, what are we going to do? They have to pay to train people, and then the margin of error is going to be high when you first put them out there. So what,
And
I mean, what are you thinking?
and well, here's the thing too.
Mike, what's up? I forgot what's going on, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Not too much, you guys. I'm just kind of listening because I'm not really knowing a whole lot about this. But I'll give you my theories. I'm just going to listen a little bit more, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, assembly line stuff you just don't build that stuff in a day, and you don't move it. You don't move it overseas in a year or so. It takes a couple of years to do all that, and it benefits Apple to build iPhones in China because remember I was telling you about the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative has trade ways to Africa
Oh,
because they have free trade agreements with Africa, in particular the Congo, where most of your iPhone parts come from, like coltan.
yep.
You can't get coltan in the United States.
So
You can
Africa
only get it
can
from that.
lock them down from getting any type of resources to build a phone. So pretty much China has put a lock on that.
So yeah, so if you want to really build iPhones here, yeah, you will be trying to get parts from Africa because that's where most of the minerals come from.
Wow. Wow, the US has told, I didn't even see it like that. The US has, it's not the purchase as far as us being the biggest consumer. We don't have the relationship nor the trade agreements that China in a quiet place was being able to build. While we were so focused on things that we didn't need to really be focused on, China was able to go build relationships with Africa. I want to say all the
Can I speak
countries
for a
that,
second?
huh?
When you're done, can I speak?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So all the countries that we consider to be third world countries now have made an alliance ultimately.
Hmm.
Hey, woo! What's going on, Dwight?
What's up? What's up? How you doing,
I'm
Sister
good.
E? I see you still running from me from the debate, but it's
Oh, we
cool.
can
It's all right.
schedule. I got my first debate with Nitsa, so after I get done with Nitsa, you next.
I'm just messing with you anyway. So, I disagree with a lot of things that was said up here.
Okay.
Um, and this is why I disagree. Um, America is China's biggest customer, right? I'll say this one more time. America is China's biggest customer. A lot of the products that China make, uh, Chinese people don't buy or use, right? So China is relying on their friends. I mean, on the people who deal with China. But China has built up a bad reputation of uh, uh, not putting out fair trade. Okay, they will sell you their goods, but when it comes to you selling your goods in China, we ain't having it. Okay, and China is not, other than the major cities. um, China is not America, right? America is number one for a reason. And the reason why we're number one is because of our economy. Americans like to spend, 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 right? And the only weakness that America has is that we don't have all of the minerals we need to make all our products. Um, but one thing that, and I agree with you guys, China has been going to Africa and building up on those relationships. but China has also been misusing those relationships, and a lot of African countries wish they never took certain deals for China because those was losing contracts for China. Um, and this is one thing that I hate that our country has not been taken advantage of is the fact that America, even though it is a majority Caucasian country, but America is a mixed country, right? So we should be in every nation making deals and doing what China was trying to do, right? I feel like China, even though China has these deals with these African countries, they gave them money to build bridges and this and that. But they also had deals to take their resources, and you have African countries not having ownership to a lot of their resources because of these deals that China has uh, given out. These one-sided deals that China love doing. Um, That's why um, the only reason why countries like America and uh, the EU and major countries love China is because they put out cheap products, right? Where we have all these laws where we can't manufacture certain products, having steel mills and all that, is because a lot of these factories destroy the environment. We really kind of don't really want to do a lot of stuff here, but if we have to do it, I believe that we can most definitely do it. All of these factories that's been built over in China, they was built by American countries. China has stole majority of its technology that it has, and the technology that it stole is what pushed China to the top, right? But one thing that we have an advantage over China is America is China's biggest customer. I mean, we buy way more from China than they buy from us. Okay, if we find another place, other countries that we can make deals with to make our products that we like, and spread it out, and that was like I said, that was like that was one of our biggest mistakes as well, having China be the main place we go to when we want products built for cheap, and that's been our another weakness that we have. But hopefully after this trade war, and then hopefully, because I agree with you, Sister E, this type of stuff can lead to a world war because when you mess with a company's economy, I mean, you mess with a country's economy, it do it do spark wars. Okay, I just believe that America has. I believe that it's there's technology that America has that we don't even know that they have yet, and I believe that's one of the major reasons why we haven't been attacked by other countries because the things that Trump is doing is he's picking a fight, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know no other way of saying
And it
it.
is. It is.
I don't know what to say, but I'll lay right there.
Okay, I'll speak now. Um, um, American quality of products um, is trash compared to what's coming from China in terms of the quickness, uh, cheap builds, and different things like that. America has chosen to not pay its workforce livable wages across the board.
Cut the middle class out. Yep.
And so, and then you have a lot of Americans, such as myself, it's just from disillusions to just don't care about this country anymore, because it keeps doing the same things. It does it. How many times you got to prove to me that I ain't shit to you? That's how I feel about America. And at this particular point, I'm at return the favor. You know, I I'm a Persian Gulf War veteran. I got uncles that were Tuskegee Airmen. My grandfather was a Buffalo Soldier, and it don't mean nothing to this country. You know, yeah, we have made some gains and strides as a personal family to have some things, property for the most part, and trying to keep that and um, maintain it and manipulate it and be responsible for it. But man, when it comes to me getting my segment of it, I'm looking for where I'm going. I mean, for real, to hell with America. I feel nothing for it because it feels nothing for me. Um, yeah, that's pretty much where I am today. I don't see this country um making a U-turn. I don't see this country coming out of this. I see a civil war as well as a world war, especially with somebody like Trump and so many people that back him. Even with the new numbers, you're still talking about a good two-third. I mean, shoot, 40, but somewhere between 40 and 50% of white people prove that they feel just like he do. Uh-uh. After, I mean, mm,
I see
that's
what you're
just where I'm
saying,
at.
Mike.
Man,
I see what you're
we
saying.
too much. My people say things like my grandmother when she was alive. She used to say that the black man is the best friend that the white man or black people are the best friend white people ever had, and they just keep shitting on us. Oh, let's shit on them some more. Let's see how much shit we can smear on them before something changes, or what are we supposed to do? It's like we're backed into a corner and we have to support them. Nah, I'm not. Um, I'm just trying to figure out whether I stay or whether I'm go. What I'm going to do as a person um, with a little bit of means. I guess it's going to be because my people aren't like me at this point, and y'all know, especially Gardis and Sister E. Y'all know I didn't talk like this 5 years ago. Y'all know.
No, you didn't.
I
You
was I
No,
didn't.
was
yeah.
I was not like this 5 years ago, but so much has happens and keeps happening. And after I'm gonna be 56 this year, man, how many cheeks you supposed to have? How many cheeks you supposed to have for this country and looking at the other side? And it's like brother Jeffrey had posted a thing about what were we like, what were our thinking patterns, what were our communities like before we ever interacted with Europeans. I want to know, and I want to go back to something like that because they have not. The trade off has not benefited us um, as much as we have been a benefit to them, and they expect us to continue to be like that. And I'm like, ain't that a bitch? Excuse my language. I know I'm cussing a little bit here on this particular. I know, and I know y'all. This ain't. Y'all might say this ain't my character. I'm just
That's why I
reestablishing
was
it. We,
shocked. I was looking
yeah,
like,
I don't.
hold on.
I tried, Sister E,
But you
and I
know
and
what?
I
I
know.
could hear it. I could hear it, Mike, because I remember when we used to do Sunday seminary, and you had a heart for people to
Yeah,
come together of all colors.
yeah.
And but you loved your people. You always made your people
I do,
important.
and I do have still some levels of empathy towards other races in that way. But I watched again. I saw I'm not Martin. What's his name? Muhammad Ali. When they were explaining to him, he's like, if it's 1,000 of y'all coming at me, and 10 of y'all are good, how am I supposed to know how to separate them 10 from this 1,000 or 100 that's coming at me that want to kill me, that want to keep their foot on my neck, that want to keep me down, that want to manipulate, or want me to be, capitulate towards them, to make them feel comfortable at all costs, no matter how much uncomfortable you make me feel or have to perform. I'm not. The indoctrination didn't work on me. I'm gonna say it that way. You
No, it
know,
didn't.
the
Because
indoctrination did not work, and I see a lot of people, a lot of brothers and stuff that it do, and they always want the benefit of the doubt. That's why you'll hear me talk about stuff now about colonial Christianity, because I figured it out. It's like, dang, it's like a processing plant that they send you through, and even when they'll use the Bible to give you the scripture quotations to answer certain things you might see. Well, refer back to the Bible. It's just it's not that the Bible is wrong. It's that they have used it in a way to keep you complacent to they bullshit, you know. And I just can't continue to do it. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. I feel you, Mike. I can hear it in your voice. Like I said, you sent me a goddess no because back in
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
day, that Sunday seminary days, you know,
Mm.
you
I
were,
do. I do remember that.
you were trying to extend that olive branch. Where I was like, cut the olive branch in half and burn
Yeah,
it.
it's funny because we still. It's funny because with us, as far as I'm concerned, or some of the core members of Sunday Seminary still are pruned the same way. I mean, there's a natural cut on us to be. When I go out today, I was out. I'm nice and I'm friendly, but um, today if you rub me wrong, you know, I notice it now, and I can't hide it as much as I used to. I can't give you the benefit of the doubt all the time, because uh, you expect it. You expect me to be the one to bend over for you,
When
just
it
because
comes to
how
this,
you feel about black people in general. They're supposed to acquiesce to you. They're supposed to be nice to you. They're supposed to take your stuff, and and maybe we are as if uh we are the chosen people in that way, and but it's hard right now. I'm It's very difficult at this particular moment in history for me to do that. And I am wondering if my heart has been hardened. I'm wondering. I hope not. But I'm
I don't
also
think it is. I think you seeing, and I know we shifted in this, which I'm fine. Y'all know me.
mhm,
I'm good with shifting. We can go back to the other subject as well.
yeah.
Goddess want to chime in, looking like the
No, that's why I was
Father
listening
G
because
right now.
I knew about the Cotan, and I know that that's an essential piece that
Yep.
they need for all cell phone. And that's the thing about it. Truthfully, I want Africa to be independent to work on its own. They'll never let that happen. Is because they don't want them to develop things like nuclear weapons to stand on equal footing with the rest of these countries that come in as the brother was talking about, or they'll come in and do trade with them for the vital minerals that they need for everything to run their stuff, but they'll never put them on equal footing. That's why I like the one a couple of presidents that's over there kicking them out. Get up out of here, and we'll do this. We'll figure it out, and then when we come back to the world market, we come complete. So y'all can't backdoor us no more. And I want all black people to start being like that. No more backdoors for us. No more pushing us, and we take the short ends of the sticks because y'all expect that from us. No, no, not especially not if we the chosen peoples. Not if God made us the apple of His eye. Heck no. Why we no, 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 no. But go ahead, y'all.
The goddess is laughing,
No,
but
I mean, I look. I'm just listening to Mike and just listening to his opinion about it. And for me, even though I do kind of sign with brother Mike on his
I do.
sentiments about this country, in this kind of analysis, I really don't take a side because even though people might seem like I'm rooting for China, I'm really not. I'm just looking at the situation that our country is in and China is in. And I want to go back to Brother Dwayne because while it is true that as a country, the United States is China's biggest customer, when you look at it from a perspective of unions and groups, China's biggest trading partner is basically the ASEAN group, which is basically the Association of Southern Asian Nations, which is actually an economic alliance. And then their second biggest trading partner is the European Union. Oh, why do I say that? Because when you look at total exports to these particular countries, ASEAN with the 10 nations, China exports over $586 billion compared to the United States 524, and the European Union, they export $516 billion. Their total trade assets with ASEAN is 982 billion, and the European Union is 785 compared to 688. So you got to wonder, China is shifting away from these trade deals with individual countries and actually doing trade deals with people like the European Union. Why do you think Trump had tariffed the European Union instead of tariffing the individual European countries? Because that is China's new way of dealing with their trade partners. They're dealing with alliances now. So yes, they can lose the United States, and they still have those two trade partners, which is, like I said, ASEAN and the European Union. That's China's mentality going forward on how they're trading with nations now. And when you're talking about their trade with Africa, now, mind you, yes, they are doing a lot of business in Africa. But at the same time, we've got to also understand that they've also loaned a lot of money to a lot of African nations. But guess what? Many of those African nations had defaulted on those loans to China. Guess what China did? They forgave. They forgave 23 interest-free loans to 17 African nations. They've forgiven $3.4 billion of debt to the African nations in the last 10 years. So to me, that doesn't sound like they're trying to take Africa. Because if that was the World Bank, and actually the World Bank has made loans to these African nations and they defaulted. And so what did they do? They went in and took over their resources. So they didn't forgive any loans, especially when you're talking about the IMF and the World Bank. They didn't forgive any of those loans. And then what is China doing in Africa? They're building infrastructure. Ethiopia just developed a high-speed railway, which Chinese engineers came and helped them develop it. So this is what they're doing in Africa. They're actually building their infrastructure instead of colonizing them and taking their resources and also enslaving the colonies. You don't see Chinese people doing that. You saw Europeans and Americans coming in and just doing whatever they want to and basically raping those countries. And so when you look at that relationship, it's not a colonization relationship with Africa. And just like with any business, yes, they're gonna take their share of certain things, but they're also giving to these countries. They're giving back to these countries. Like I said, they're even forgiving the loans that most of these African countries have defaulted on, because they probably can't pay it because of the loans that they're paying back to the IMF and the World Bank. So this relationship is not the same. And so and then when you talk about Africa, so I think Mike was talking about it, and you look at how Africa is also aligned as well with Burkina Faso and Mali, and they're forming this thing called the Sahel Alliance, which is not supported by the United States, but it's supported by China, Russia, and all the other nations that goes against the United States, because they know that those countries who have been colonized by white Europeans for years are finally standing up to them and say, no, you're not going to take our resources. You're going to pay for it just like every other nation. So, and then you got, countries like Nigeria, who's still mentally colonized by the British, who are, going up against the Sahel state. But at the same time, the Sahel states are doing something that that the whole entire continent of Africa should have been doing years ago. So I disagree, Dwayne, with your assessment, because for me, China is well stabilized to, first of all, lose a customer like America. And like I said, they will take a financial hit, but it ain't gonna hit as hard as if China cuts us off.
That I agree with. And the only thing I was trying to add earlier is it seems like with the Asian communities, they have little satellites. And they're building their own second homelands in different places, like in Los Angeles. Where they are, they're building their areas. And they pretty much have a good control of those areas. Um, as far as the infrastructure and different things of that. They have their banks out here, and they can always reach back to the homeland for more finances to continue to 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 grow. And I guess that bothers me that we don't have that or access to that. Um, but I just wanted to say that part too is just out here in California or Los Angeles where I see where the Asians are, um, especially the Japanese and the Chinese. They have their own communities that continue to expand, and they got some of the best communities or some of the best real estate too.
Yep, this makes sense. This is a good to think about it. Like you said earlier, China has literally monopolized the third, have built relationships with the very countries that we consider to be third world countries that was pretty much uh, operating at the wheel of the U.S. China has been building relationships with them. Africa, for them to clear out the debt with Africa and then still have the colonizers do what they're doing, that right there, that you've built a relationship with a country that's bigger than the US. Africa is huge as a whole. Then you have the smaller Asian countries. You got Indonesia, you have Vietnam, all those different countries that you talked about. That ended up that were considered to be third worlds, and at one time, well, Vietnam did kind of beat the brakes off U.S., but yet and still, those countries are now building alliances with China. China has the relationships, and you know how you get a bunch of small pieces, and before you know, you become one big piece and then you got one over there that's just isolated by themselves. It would hurt them. I really believe it would hurt the US in the long run, going back and forth, because guess what? US has done people so wrong. And the European Union knows it as well. They were a part of it. But instead of the European Union fighting with the US, they're trying to take another route and fight against the US. So it's pretty much leaving US by themselves and isolated. Dwayne, Mike, y'all got something?
No, I just agree with what you said, and that America has been the bully on the block for so long that this is why it's isolated. This is the same reason that them twins, one of them ain't here. Walking around and bullying everybody. And when, I'm gonna leave that alone though. But y'all understand what I'm talking about. Um, and then, like I said, America's got an internal problem also. You know, um, it's like we reluctantly have to roll with the program. It's like it just, I just keep thinking of like when I came back from my military service, I came back to the riots in Los Angeles. Uh, I think about the brothers who came back in their uniforms and got hung. It's like, what are we supposed to do? I don't get it. At this point, um, I don't know. As far as our allegiance to something that is not showing that same allegiance with us, because the truth of the matter is they don't care about them. They don't care about their own folks. They don't care about us. You know what I'm saying? We was rolling around today watching all the little homeless white guys running around with no shirt with a string around their waist, homeless, or whatever. Crazy, you know, drugged out, whatever. America got no plan for them, so they ain't got no plan for nobody else. But jump on board when we tell you to. Nah, I'm cool. But Dwayne, I'm gonna let you speak, bro, because I still want to hear your perspective. I got to put that in into perspective also.
Yeah. I don't know. What's your name? Gardis. What? How you say your name?
Gardis. Yep, you got it.
Guard. Okay. I mean, you bringing some information. It's different from what I hear, because what I hear is a lot of these African nations are regretting these loans that they got from China, because they're called trap loans. Um, let me see. Hold on. Let me see. I did some quick research.
Okay, while he doing some research, anybody else got anything to
Oh,
add? And the link
oh,
I pinned
I,
it.
I thought I
uh,
froze.
Oh no. But if anybody got anything to add something to this convo, because again, this tariff war, I've been kind of watching it, and like I said, US's ego is gonna get the best of them, and they're gonna go to war with China. And it's gonna be Trump that's gonna push a war. As much as he don't want to go to war, he's put himself in a position he don't want to be deemed as if he ain't capable of fighting a fight against China. Because right now you're dealing too, as well as if I'm the biggest dude on the block, I'm regardless of the fact that this other person might scare the brakes off of me, I can't let them know, because guess what? I'm gonna lose that name in the street. And that's literally what's going on. Where I see Trump is like trying to maintain that assertiveness as being a superpower, and really we don't have the money nor the resources to be a superpower.
Now, not since we owe everybody, but Trump more is like Nero to me watching Rome burn. You know what I'm saying? He's sitting on the he gone. But they trying to pull him back. You know, I'm not saying that he's dumb. I'm not saying that he's not calculating, but he'll throw it all away. You know what I'm saying? He'll throw it all away if before he gives it up in his mind, or the way that, to me, white people like him operate. They'll burn it all down. You know, I'll take my ball and go home. That's the kind of people that type of European to me is. Not saying that other people of different ethnicities can't be that way too, but definitely him. Everything about him has been trained to not take a loss, or not. Since he was a child, he throw a tantrum whenever the stuff that I've seen. He throw a tantrum and was very mean to his brother, and all these different things. Nobody he entitled. Uh, and these are small words to use to describe him. And so he don't care. I don't think he cares. Oh, but I wanted to say this because it came up while we were having this. I just say it was Ephesians. Which one? It's the one that says, be angry, but sin not." So God is still trying to work with me too, y'all. I just want to throw that in there too. That's it.
That's it. Man,
Mhm.
hold on. Let me play this video while Dwayne is looking up his stuff. Now, somebody sent me this video, and I'm gonna play a little bit of it. And y'all tell me what y'all's thoughts are. Actually, Mr. Wiggins, Santonio sent me this. Hold
Wiggle,
on.
wiggle, Winnie, wiggle, Winnie,
Wiggle
wiggle, wood.
Wiggies.
That's right.
That's what they call him on Clubhouse. Wiggling Wiggins. So hold on. No, that's what Don called him. Hold on.
Last month, I took an order for a batch of copper parts. I've already bought all the materials. It cost tens of thousands, and everything has been cut, ground, washed, and engraved. It's not finished yet, but today the customer messaged me and said the delivery might be delayed. After customs clearance, the taxes have gone up too much. A TikToker who works as a bulk trade supplier shared in his video the huge pressure he's under after the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs.
订单量5000多万美金，今年我们订单已经排到了26年的5月份。
Our orders are worth over 50 million US dollars. This year, we're already booked through May 2026. But with this 30% tariff hike, the impact on us is huge. If you're a small startup, it's not such a big deal because you don't ship enough to fill an entire container. But for us, it hits hard. Our profit margins in bulk trading are already razor thin. Now with a 34% tariff, it's like getting knocked to the ground.
He said the only thing he can do for now is wait. His backup plan is to ship through third-party warehouses in other countries. That's the only way forward. On April 7th, the owner of a clothing factory posted a video saying the entire foreign trade apparel industry in China is filled with anxiety.
现在做外贸单的
Everyone doing foreign trade now is nervous. A 50% tariff is just scary. Who's going to place orders under these conditions? Sure, some clothing businesses are still busy, but it's hard to make money anymore. US orders only make up part of our business, but there are so many clothing factories in China. If we all turn to Europe and there's no US orders, then think about it. Won't competition at home become even worse? Domestic sales are also weak this year. People just don't have money to spend, so how can this market possibly improve?
On April 2nd, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a new round of global-based tariffs, raising rates on dozens of countries. At the time of the announcement, the actual tariff rate for China stood at 34%.
在现行适用关税税率基础上加征34%关税。
In response, the Chinese Communist Party announced on April 4th that it would impose a matching 34% tariff on all goods imported from the U.S. Trump then warned that he may raise tariffs on China by another 50%. The CCP responded by saying it's ready to fight to the end. While the Chinese government is showing a tough stance, many businesses in China are already feeling the pain. On April 7th, a TikToker filmed a clothing factory that had shut down and said the clothing industry is in serious trouble. All the machines in his factory are about to stop. He said this year is going to be incredibly tough. That same day, another TikToker posted a similar scene, workers moving goods around inside a clothing factory. He wrote that as soon as the U.S. swung its tariff hammer,
don't pay anything to fix your roof. New York City homeowners can get a free roof while paying zero out of pocket, saving upwards of $25,000. So if your roof is leaking, damaged, or if it's old, keep watching this video to see the easiest and fastest way to get a brand new roof for your home for free. And no, this is not some type of hack.
The impact finally hit the apparel industry. His factory originally had orders scheduled through the end of July, but now over 6,000 down jackets have been put on hold, and their ready-to-ship products are piling up in the warehouse. He said both offline and online sales are struggling this year. Even live stream selling isn't working anymore. With sluggish consumer demand and weak domestic sales, the foreign trade slowdown is pushing more exporters into the domestic market, creating even more.
I'm going to stop right there. So what do y'all think so far?
Well, I didn't think that, like I said, I didn't say that it wasn't going to hurt China, but I think they are well more equipped to deal with it better than the United States. And one thing I thought about too, you notice this country likes to put economic sanctions on countries that it doesn't like. Why didn't the United States just put an economic sanction on China?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Because they can't afford to. Because when you're talking about economic sanctions, you're completely cutting off all trade, all transaction. Your allies can't trade with them, and they can't trade with China or whatever. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't even think about that. Anybody got anything else to add to that?
I mean, my thing is, if you put in 100%, 120, I think it was 125% uh, uh, on tariffs on China. I mean, that's just like cutting everything off because who gonna pay that? You know, and if that's the same similar video that I seen, all these Chinese companies are literally holding their products because nobody's gonna take it because nobody's gonna pay that. I understand what you're saying, but to me, I don't see the difference.
Mike, what are your thoughts? Okay, I'm gonna keep playing, but I see everybody's side. But I think I'm leaning towards both sides because I see what Gardis is saying. I think what Gardis is saying in the long run, because we're looking at short run and long run. Short run, people are impacted, and we know in economics, you're gonna always have a short run effect dealing with economics. But you got a situation where in the long run, how are they gonna look? Can these companies, can the US hold out, or can the US hold out the way that they're holding out with China and still maintain? How will that impact the economy? How will these companies respond? So it's just like the short effect, yeah, it's hitting them hard, but how is this going to look a year from now? Because I'm telling you, if they keep doing this is going to lead to I'm talking about a full out war, because you're dealing with the country's money and economics. And I don't think the companies are going to push back on this war. So anything else before I move on with this video? All right.
More excess production. He said this year's apparel industry is like a pressure cooker that could blow at any moment. This isn't just panic, it's worse than during the pandemic. Many clothing business owners may lose everything they've built over a lifetime.
People seeing anybody seeing potential war with China.
Another TikToker showed the current situation at his factory. Because of the tariff hike, orders have been delayed or canceled. Now his packaging and printing factory doesn't even have boxes to make. All he can do now is clean the factory. A TikToker shared a video saying that after the U.S. increased tariffs, the impact on China's foreign trade is obvious. He mentioned that when he flies, there are hardly any Westerners on the plane, mostly people from Africa. Also, when entering the U.S., Chinese people face especially strict security checks.
I'm at Guangzhou Baiyun Airport right now, and the flight is about to take off. This tariff increase is really affecting China. If you look around, you can see there are almost no white faces here, mostly African brothers. This shows how tough the foreign trade situation is right now. When I went through customs, they saw my yellow skin and Chinese passport and gave me a hard time. They asked about every little detail: why I'm here, who I'm visiting, where I'm staying, how long I'll be, and what business I'm doing. Traveling abroad is already hard, and now people like me in foreign trade have to face Trump's 54% tariff hike and random checks.
On April 6, a female owner of a laser cutting factory, Liu Ting, posted a video saying that manufacturing in China is going to get even harder, and she plans to sell off her 30,000 watt equipment.
是的，你们没有听错，我可能要把去年4月份买的大组的激光要准备出掉了。
Yes, you heard me right. I might have to sell the laser equipment I bought last April. I don't need to explain. You can probably guess why. The economic environment is bad, and the trade war has already started. Soon, all manufacturing businesses, especially small ones, will face bankruptcy. This is not an exaggeration. It's the reality. She also said that starting this month, all manufacturing businesses in China will face an unprecedented winter. More and more companies will go bankrupt, lay off workers, and downsize. Many manufacturing owners will end up with insufficient funds and will not survive. Cases in banks, law firms, and courts will pile up. The TikToker estimates that all in an anxious, confused, and helpless state. Particularly for factories that relied on foreign trade orders, the shrinking foreign demand and declining domestic demand are making it difficult. Many small business owners can't sleep because of worries and fear. They're afraid all the years of hard work will go to waste. They fear they won't be able to pay employee wages or cover rent and utilities. The TikToker revealed that with electricity costs for her equipment already reaching her limit, she has decided to sell her 30,000 watt laser equipment. On April 8th, a TikToker from Zhejiang shared a video saying that she suddenly realized the U.S. tariff increase has also severely impacted non-exporting manufacturers.
浙江这边的厂，这个关税加上去之后。
How big of an impact has the tariff increase had on local factories in Zhejiang? I run a small factory and don't deal with foreign trade, so I'm not sure how much it would affect me. But I've noticed that my upstream suppliers who export raw materials haven't received any orders for a long time. Not even one container has shipped out. When they can't get orders, They try to switch to domestic sales. Now people at their factories are still working non-stop, running around to try to make domestic sales. So when they get involved in the domestic market, doesn't that just drag the domestic factories into it too? Everyone's getting caught in the spiral, and in the end, we'll all collapse together. The impact is really huge, and some people probably haven't realized it yet. Whether it's the impact on their foreign trade or on our factories that don't deal with foreign trade, it's all very significant. On April 7th, a TikToker from Foshan visited a newly built factory district and recorded footage of the vacant and neglected factory buildings.
He said, "Look at these factories that were just built last year. Now I can't even find a single person. There are no cars or people on the road. Some of these factories are single-story and others have multiple floors. The landlords spent nearly 1 billion yuan to build these. Just a few years ago, these beautiful buildings were all leased out by middlemen. You had to wait in line to rent a factory space. But now, there isn't a single customer coming to view the space. The new factory buildings behind me haven't even been renovated yet because the landlords are afraid of spending money if no one rents them. With the manufacturing industry in decline, every industry is struggling."
He recalled that some Chinese companies moved to Southeast Asia to avoid the US-China trade war a few years ago. Now, this new wave of tariffs is a heavy blow to those companies because some countries have even higher tariffs than China. He questioned where these companies should go next: stay in Southeast Asia, move back to China, or shift to Africa. On April 7th, Ms. Gong, a manager of a Bluetooth headphone export company in Guangzhou, told Radio Free Asia that most companies in Guangdong that used to trade with the US have stopped accepting orders due to tariff barriers. She said, "I had dinner with people from the industry yesterday, and they told me that they used to export products from Vietnam to the US. Now most of those orders have stopped. They're not taking new orders. They're just waiting to see how serious the situation will get. Right now, we know that foreign trade companies in Guangzhou and Guangdong are temporarily not accepting orders." Ms. Gong also mentioned that a Hong Kong company near her recently moved its factory to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and is currently hiring Vietnamese locals. However, the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs has put the factory in a difficult position. She said they just built the factory in Vietnam, and now they're about to start operations. But now the U.S. has increased tariffs by 46% on Vietnam, so it's impossible to avoid the high tax rates. The investment they made earlier is now wasted. According to Trump's announced plans, the U.S. will implement differentiated tariffs on different countries and regions, with China at 34%, the EU at 20%, Taiwan at 32%, Vietnam at 46%, Switzerland at 31%, the UK and Brazil at 10%, and Japan, South Korea, and India at 24%. Additionally, Trump announced a minimum 10% tariff on all goods entering the U.S. However, on April 7th, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that nearly 70 countries have already reached out to the U.S. to discuss negotiations on Trump's latest tariff policy. He revealed that President Trump will personally participate in the talks to secure the best bargaining position for the U.S. Many Southeast Asian countries, including Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Malaysia have expressed willingness to make adjustments and negotiate with the U.S. Despite Vietnam's proactive efforts to reduce U.S. import tariffs, the White House refused to offer reciprocal concessions, citing non-tariff cheating. U.S. trade advisor Peter Navarro recently said that Vietnam's issue lies in non-tariff methods, such as Chinese products being exported via Vietnam and the theft of U.S. intellectual property. His comments highlighted that the Trump administration not only sees tariffs as a tool to resolve trade imbalances, but is also trying to prevent country of origin laundering and.
All right. What are y'all's thoughts so far? I'm gonna
That
pause.
just prove everything I said is absolutely right.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hold on for a minute, right? Okay, I'm here. Yeah, that's pretty eye-opening. I will say that. But I don't really understand this make everybody suffer thing that Trump is doing. It's like he's punishing everyone except for, it seems like, his group of constituents or billionaires, million and billionaires here. Everybody else, i- from what I'm hearing now, it's like all of you suffer to please us, one way or another. Um, what is America going to do with this windfall of money? It's already seems to me to be promised to the billionaires for tax cuts and different things of that nature. So I don't see um, I don't see the benefit for the average American in anything that they're doing, and we haven't even heard the retaliatory, um, or I don't understand the retaliatory um, things or implements that I would imagine these countries would have back towards us as the United States. But yeah, pretty much that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he took off all the tariffs on the other countries for 90 days. The only one that still have a tariff right now is
It's
China.
China. Yep, China. I thought it was Mexico and Canada too. He kept it there, but I might be wrong. But yeah, I know he still kept it to China. So, Gardis, anybody else? Gardis, you got something? Anybody? Because I want to make sure because everybody's kind of like they didn't realize to the extent of how this tariff war is impacting the entire world. It's not just impacting the U.S.
Yeah, and I think it was only I think Trump only reduced it to 10% to the rest of the world and kept the tariffs on China, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he removed it, but he reduced it to 10%, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but with the video, like I said, I didn't think, like I said, China's going to take a hit. But when you watch videos like this, you got to understand China is a nation of over 1 billion people. They have the second largest landmass in the world. And the context of a lot of this stuff, when you're talking about the businesses that, some of these people are testifying that are in trouble, a lot of them are mid-level to small businesses. Now, when an economic crisis happens, those are the companies that get hit the most,
Yeah.
the small and the mid-level businesses. And so in the context of this, I'm not sure, you know, like I said, yeah, obviously there are some sectors in China that will get hit. And obviously we're seeing the testimonies of some people there. But I mean, if you take it like, say somebody's doing a video here in the United States and we're talking about, industry as well. Now, if you go over to, California or Texas, where a lot of our manufacturing, is in those two states, then you're going to think like, oh, wow, United States has a lot of manufacturing companies. But don't forget, we got 50 states. Now, send a crew over to South Carolina, where they lost a lot of their factories to NAFTA. Then you're going to say, oh, wow, factories are gone in the United States. So I don't know what the context is in this particular video, where they're filming it at. Is it near Beijing? Is it near Shanghai? Is it near Hong Kong? I don't know. But, they're just kind of like saying a lot of businesses are having issues with the supplies, being exported, the export supplies. And that's going to be a problem for everybody, including here.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like Trump is running America like one of his businesses, which he ran all of them that I'm aware of into the ground. So I don't see where it's different.
I mean, how I'm looking at it, these are major corporations in China. Um, when the girl was talking about saying that she had to sell her I think it was a laser, was it a laser printer or something like that? Uh, this is not no $100 worth of equipment. This is $1 million worth of equipment, right? Meant to make products on a mass scale. Um, and then they were saying that places where this was a factory town, right? So that means that it was a bunch of people there, a bunch of workers there, because if you really know how China does it, how China workforce does it, they workers live in a factory. Because their whole livelihood. I remember watching a whole video a while ago about a lot of these workers because China is really before it became a manufacturing country. It was more so of a farmland type country. Like they was a bunch of farmers, and until it got to the point where um, it went into the 21st century, just like America did, went into the industrial industry, where a lot of these poor Chinamen was able to get jobs in these companies, but these are not jobs like how our jobs are. You know, we can buy us we can get us an apartment or a house, and then we work 8 hours a day, um, have retirement, have benefits, and this and that. You know, these people are getting paid dirt wages, right? They're getting places to live. You work for the company, they got places where you can live, but you're living pretty much in the factory, in the place. Your hometown where you actually live is 5, 6, 7 miles away, and you don't have a car. You're walking miles uh to your job where you live, where pretty much your second home, and you're sending your money back home to your family. These are the type of environments that China has, where these factories are like y'all know how I'm from Chicago, so I don't know if y'all know or not. They have a shop that's it'll be a store or it'll be like a restaurant or something like that. Then on top of it, it's like an apartment, and that's what the owner live and his family. These are how these factories are. Where they have people actually living and they have like buildings or something. They have big apartment buildings where there'd be like thousands of people living in these places, and all these people that live in this place work at this factory, you know. And losing your job is losing your livelihood. Now your family back home don't have no money to buy certain things because of this or because of that. That's why majority of their products are good, because if you mess up, that's your job. And some of these people go suicidal because they lose their job because there's nothing else. You know, like getting a job in a factory. For these people are like being a college professor. Like you the man. You know. So this is the type of environment that these people are living in. And these factories are losing money on a mass scale to the point where they have to sell some of their equipment. You know, um, you have to fully understand how China's manufacturing environment works to know how devastating this is for China. Now, China, they can make a hit, but this type of hit, it'll be hard for them to kind of recover from. And I lay
I
right there.
was I was trying to get Karath to come up here because me and Karath had a long. He called me today and just to check and see because I hadn't been on Clubhouse in a while, and he was like, we started chopping it up about what was going on in China, and he deals in logistics, so he was kind of saying some of the same stuff, dealing with how tariffs are impacting these factories, which are ultimately impacting these jobs, which is not really impacting the country itself, is impacting the companies like the Apples. And the thing is, these countries are not really fighting because of the tariffs. They're fighting because they're trying to keep the companies there, because the companies are what's keeping their economies flowing. Because Gardis made a good point. He said it's not the country that's being tariffed, it's the company. And these companies are now, dealing with those tariffs, and the countries are pretty much fighting to keep them here. Because I didn't know when Gardis told me, he said China was going in. Didn't you say China was going into bankruptcy?
Like 50 years ago.
Yeah, but due to the interaction with Nixon and all of them, they ended up bringing, work there. It takes a minute to build an economy. So this happened in 50 years. They moving right on time to
But
build the type of
still,
economy they have now.
the way that the brother from Chicago explained it, it sounded like a form of slavery. And I do know that, yeah, they had them people in the factory sleeping in shifts in the same bed. So, maybe, I don't know if it was three of them switching off in the different time frames. I had heard some of these different things going on with these companies. Um, but you couldn't do that here with a workforce, as we are talking about earlier. Certain restrictions would keep you from doing that. Certain age restrictions that they probably have opened up on their end. You don't know how young these children are in these factories, um, producing these products that have such a high demand for. A lot of it, what I heard, especially at one part, was apparel. So that's clothes. So okay, so either make your own clothes or wear stuff from last season. It's some of it is just kind of ridiculous to me, and we still just talking about some very rich men in a small group, pretty much having a fight amongst them, and the rest of us over there and over here are having uh, crazy impacts on that, because listening to them losing their factory jobs makes me think about the Americans here that just lost their jobs and their pensions and all these different things. We just lost a lot of stuff too, because these dudes at the top are playing a game to see, who can outlast who or something. I don't get into all the particulars, or I don't know all the particulars, but I just try to use deductive reasoning on how this stuff is operating. And
Yeah, but them losing their job there is more devastating because you lose your job, you got food stamps, you got unemployment, right? When they lose
temporarily,
their job, they don't have nothing.
temporarily. And that's what I'm saying. Trump is trying to go under these safeguards and safety nets supposedly that we have for American citizens. Like I said, I went out today and I saw a bunch of homeless people, crazy or drugged out. So they have no plan for them either. It's like, it's if I was going back to the biblical aspects of it, it's, uh, we're all waxed hard. We're all getting to the point where we don't care about the next man. Um, and those at the top levels are still throwing meat around, like Tupac used to say, throwing meat and salami. And, Trump doing all this in between his golf tournaments. Come on, man. It's just ridiculous, all of it to me. And I want to see what the people are going to do in all of these areas, from China to us to Africa. What are the people going to do? Because eventually they have to answer to us, or they got to eliminate us. One of the two.
And
I'm glad.
and
Oh, go
and
ahead.
that's not true. China does have unemployment benefits. Don't forget they're a socialist
Oh,
country.
they do. See, I ain't know that.
Yeah, I know we look at their economy because they're kind of like a hybrid capitalist type of country, but governmentally they're still a communist socialist country. And in those type of countries, yeah, you do get unemployment. But I wanted to talk about what you had mentioned about the working conditions there, and yeah, it's real tough. But when you look at our working conditions, 44% of the labor force here does not make a living wage. Um, and when you look at some of the conditions that a lot of our workforce has, now mind you, they don't live in factories or anything, but they live in a when you're talking about, well, take for example in San Francisco, there's literally a homeless community there of working professionals who can't afford housing because of the fact that they don't make enough money. Now, these aren't people who clean toilets or work in Walmart. These are people who have IT jobs, like Sister E and me, and they're living out of their cars. So what, like, okay, yeah, we could talk about, the Chinese work environment in the factories. Yeah, they suck. But just like brother Mike said, majority of their industry is not based off of clothing and clothing manufacturing. A lot of Chinese economy in their industry, their top industries is petroleum, construction, and electricity. That's where they make their most money. So, for me, yes, their working conditions bad, but it's bad and sometimes worse than some conditions over here as well. So, but like I said before, I think everybody in this round is going to take a hit, and China is not immune to that as well. But I think in the long run, they're going to be fine.
I think, yeah, I think they're going to recover. You brought up something. Have you noticed in the past 3 years they've been doing this whole little campaign on YouTube, van life, and they've made it so like, and I thought about it a couple of days ago. I said they're making it like it's just they glamorizing it. That's the best way to put it. They're glamorizing van life, and these people are building these vans and living inside their vans. Or you see people on YouTube saying, "I choose to live in my car," and they've glamorized it. And YouTube is actually making money. But when I looked at it about about a couple of weeks ago, because I used to love it, I was like, oh man, get to do the van life, go all over. And the more I started hearing other videos, they only got like 10% of their population that's making it on YouTube. There's another 90 that's sitting out there that's living the van life, and it's a nightmare. And they're doing it not because of the fun, but they have no choice. I said, it wouldn't shock me none that they're conditioning our minds to want to let go of our properties and just say, I want to be free. And really, I said, that's all that is homelessness. I hate to say it like that, but that's all it is.
I disagree. Some of them vans are nice, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. When I saw that, I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought of that when I was, a single young man. But
Huh?
no, some of them vans are
You are
nice.
so wrong,
Some of
Chief.
them.
Well,
They are.
some people use their ingenuity and their own constructions and different things like that to make them that way. Um, yeah, you got to figure globally. When you guys were talking about China, I had a stepson once upon a time who was out there on his own, by his own merit. He ended up getting married and coming back with his wife here, and they have a child now. But when he was out there, what they live on, or the space that's afforded to them, um, that's normal, is like equivalent to a closet somewhat to a lot of us. You know what I'm saying? Here, they're doing a global reset on the mind in general, um, to deal with the population of the world. My understanding is it's what, 8 million or something like that, maybe more. Maybe they might be in the billions, but let's say if it's 8 billion, they only want three. They feel it's more comfortable if we all live like that. The thing about it is, poor people in general, one thing they gonna do is have relations, and that's gonna bring children all over the world. If you ain't got nothing and you got a little lady or whatever you can have one way or another, it's gonna be some offspring around here, no matter how y'all pay for them. So, you know, I don't see that stopping, no matter what happens, unless we do go to some type of apocalyptic thing. And they have, they preparing for that too. Um, that's why I was glad that we came back to start trying to figure out some solutions. I guess I'm a little calmer now. It's like, what will we do as a people group, um, with a concise method to survive and hopefully thrive wherever it is we need to be to do that. You know, my primary focus at this point is for Black folks, especially until we get our stuff together. Then we can open these ranks up if that's something that we would take a mutual vote to do. Looking at the history of when you have communities with the different parts of the diaspora that's out here, and how has that benefited? How has that been a negative effect on a certain community? I think we need to take inventory on all of these things and make some hard decisions. But as Brother Jeff would say, where I'm coming to now, us first. You know what I mean? I don't even really matter to me what your religious belief is to a certain degree, because all Black folks to me go through the same thing unless they just ignore it or fluff over it. You know, we still get the Black experience anytime we have to deal with, especially Europeans, because that's the system that we have been trained or indoctrinated into and up under. So that's where I'm at.
All right, anybody got anything else? I'm gonna play a little bit more of this video. Is anybody enjoying the video? Y'all good with playing this out? I'm gonna play it out.
Reshape global manufacturing and supply chains. On April 6, a TikToker who runs a granulator production factory posted a video saying that due to the U.S. tariff policy, her factory has been working overtime to meet the demand from orders from Southeast Asia. Today is the second day of our holiday, but all our staff have been urgently called back to the factory to work overtime because of the tariff increase. Last night, our Southeast Asian customers called, asking us to hurry up and produce and ship. The boss said we should prioritize foreign orders. The big factories we work with are also working non-stop. I don't know what's going to happen next. Do you understand what this means? Some viewers commented under the video, saying, "Once these orders are done, there won't be any more orders. This is the last deal. This is the final flurry before the factory shuts down. Rushing to finish orders overnight, then pulling out when the business ends." After the U.S. announced the 34% tariff increase on Chinese goods, the People's Daily published a series of articles over 3 days, strongly criticizing the U.S.'s unilateral.
Why are you not investing in tax liens? No, seriously. Why are you not investing?
Tariffs, while stating the sky will not fall. However, it's clear that Chinese industry is feeling pessimistic. Reports from Chinese media indicate that Chinese manufacturers, foreign trade businesses, third-party intermediaries, and U.S. buyers are all struggling in this tariff battle. Some are reworking their costs overnight and engaging in price wars. Others are changing product specifications and shipping methods, while some are rushing to fulfill orders in an attempt to minimize losses before the new tariffs take effect. One foreign trade owner said, "No matter what, with these tariff hikes, the biggest losers are the business people." Mr. Zhu, an e-commerce entrepreneur from Jiangsu, told Radio Free Asia that the U.S.'s high tariffs on China will lead to the collapse of many e-commerce businesses. He said, "We are definitely affected. The impact is huge, and there's basically no profit left. We just can't keep doing business. Many e-commerce businesses in Jiangsu and Guangdong can't operate anymore. Everyone's in poverty now. The time of hunger and instability is coming. Just the other day, I met an elderly man in his 80s who was cursing the leaders, saying they've ruined this country. Our foreign policy is surrounded on all sides, and no country is engaging with China normally anymore." Veteran media figure Mr. Ge believes that the differences between China and the U.S. are not just about tariffs, and that Trump's tariff hikes are aimed at countries around the world. He points out that China's trade surplus with the U.S. nearly reached $300 billion last year, something President Trump greatly dislikes. He added that U.S.-Vietnam trade can be resolved through negotiations between the leaders of the countries, including lowering tariffs on Vietnamese products entering the U.S. But this is not the case for China. He said, in comparison, the trade war is definitely more disadvantageous for China because China depends heavily on the US market. The US itself is a huge market. The key issue is that after China made the first move, no other countries followed, which is probably the most troublesome problem for China. If Vietnam successfully negotiates with the US and benefits from it, it will attract many other countries to follow suit and negotiate as well. The People's Daily, the CCP's official paper, warned in a commentary that the US's actions will ultimately lead to a self-destructive cycle for the US. Australian scholar Li Yuanhua stated that while the US will temporarily be affected, American society's ability to withstand shocks is relatively greater than China's. He said, if life in China were to regress decades, could the Chinese people endure it? Can the CCP handle the growing public discontent? The CCP doesn't have many cards to play. When it collapses, it will likely not be in a rational way, and it won't be due to a desire to solve problems. In a rare move, there has been criticism within China against the CCP's countermeasures against the US. He Bin, former deputy director of the Public Policy Research Center at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, recently posted on social media. He said the CCP's countermeasures are entirely wrong. He made a comparison. The tariffs are like,
Is Dwayne in the room?
Yeah, I'm in here. What's up?
It's going down. That's all I gotta say.
I told you.
No,
Listen,
no, 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 no. No, it's going down in our other world. Just
what
go
you
in.
mean?
Go to Grand Rising. That's all I gotta
Oh,
say.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, continue on. Me and Dwayne rock together in Clubhouse. So Hurricane just text me. So I just want to say that. But this right here too, as well, it's going down. We are actually gonna go to war. The more I watch this, the more I'm looking at it and saying, "Oh my goodness, we going to war." Because the U.S.
And
is
can I
not.
say something?
What's
Can I
up?
say can I say something real quick too?
What's
Uh,
up?
you see, I'm telling y'all. Listen, the American economy is a beast. We survive all type of stuff. Even COVID, we was the first country to bounce back because that American way that we all love to spend, spend, spend. When Christmas come around, we got to get the Christmas gifts and all that stuff, and how we just love spending. That's the reason why we're so powerful, and we can't be beat.
But the only problem is right now, Gardis, Dwayne, Mike, the fact that China now has a competing economy. I don't think the US has ever had this much competition when they're dealing with another economy from another country. China is the only country that I would say that can probably go toe to toe with the US. And the US is feeling it right now. And this is why Trump is responding the way he's responding, because he's not responding to the EU. He doesn't care anything about what, I'm going to be honest, he don't care nothing about what the EU is doing. He don't care anything about Canada. He bullying Mexico and Canada. He don't care. But China is his target because China has a strong economy, and that can be a problem in the long run when we start talking about fighting this tariff war. Who's gonna lose and who's gonna win? China's biggest win is the countries that the U.S. didn't want to partner with, but rape and steal from, are now partnering with China. And China's like, okay, I got you. You can stand by yourself and keep doing this, but the very countries you've pretty much attacked and raped and pillaged their land, I'm gonna start building alliances with them. And that's what I think the US is gonna have a hard time with, is the alliances that China has started to build, where the US wasn't trying to build those alliances. So that's
Well,
the only country that can give the US a run for their money.
and
And you're absolutely right, because in this what I call the second Cold War, this is China is a different animal than the Soviet Union. And because of the fact that the Soviet Union never had this type of economy to compete with. Matter of fact, Soviet Union dissolved because of the fact that it didn't have an economy like China. And basically the United States basically just kind of like outspent them and engulfed, the Soviet Union, where they basically had to collapse in in 1991. But this is different because of the fact that they're not going to economically collapse China. So you're absolutely right. It's a different Cold War when you think about it.
and then how can America be so self-reliant with no allies anywhere? They've they've ruined to a big degree their alliances with their longtime allies. As you were saying, the EU and Mexico and Canada, and who's friends with the United States right now? Who gonna come who's gonna come to our aid, defense, stance alongside us about anything? You'd have to tell me because I don't know anymore.
Maybe Argentina.
Well, I look at it like this. These countries don't like Trump. When Trump out of there and the next president in there, these relationships can be restored. But I don't think you guys really can grasp the power of the American economy. Because you can have a factory, right? And your factory can produce like no other. But if you don't have customers, then everything that you make is useless. Okay. People in China are not buy. They don't buy their own products. All of the stuff that's being sold out of China, that Chinese people don't use that stuff. Chinese people, the average Chinese person is like a farmer. You know what I'm saying? They don't use none of the stuff that they make, other than people who stay in Beijing and one of these major cities. But uh, China don't have major cities like how the United States have major cities, and even outside of our suburban states, you still got a high spending. Okay, and these is what these other countries want, right? If we make these products, okay, where can we sell these products so we can make money? And there is no economy like the American economy. One thing you know for sure when it comes to America, you're gonna get your money because America is a workhorse, literally.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that because if you don't have a job or you don't have employment to have money to spend, then there's no. It don't matter what products are on
Yeah,
the market. You
I'm
don't
glad
need
you
to.
said that. I'm glad you said it because I forgot. I did want to say something. Yeah, we do have a weakness, and I've been wanting to say this, and I'm glad you said what you said because it reminded me what I want to say. We do have a weakness, and our weakness is greed. Greed is our weakness.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that's
capitalism
how
in
we.
general.
That's what's gonna make America fall is American greed.
Well, hey, that's again, unfortunately or fortunate, that's biblical. We don't know how to uh do without, especially not in this microwave economy that we have now. We need what the iPhone 20 coming out next week. I gotta have mine and get ready for the one that's coming 2 months after that. You know, uh right now the Cybertruck is hot, or and now they find out they ain't no good. So, but you're stuck in a contract that you can't get rid of it one way or another. Uh, we have to start doing some tightening our belts across the board. One thing I figured out a while back was they base because at one time I used to, and when I was in Vegas, and I used to sell like door to door kind of trinket stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because the basis of it was everybody got 5, 10, $20 in their pocket to spend on little stupid stuff for no reason, especially if they kids want it. So, you talk to 50 people, five should buy from you, all of that. They base the economy, if you ask me now, on Starbucks. If you can go to Starbucks every day and spend about $8 to $15 for breakfast just to start, and that's the staple of you coming into your office to do whatever you're going to do, then they figure in the same thing that they were talking about with me a while back. You got this silly money in your pocket that doesn't really count to you in a general sense, but somebody's getting that, somebody's scraping that up behind you. Americans are one of the most wasteful groups of people, also on the planet. We discard a lot of different things. Or I remember also going to a nice restaurant and being black from a nice restaurant. I was taught, you clean your plate or you take a doggy bag. Man, when you see them leave half their plate there, and they done spent upwards of $70 or so, or even above that for this food. You know what I'm saying? No, America's has to go through this shock again to come to its senses. We don't really have money to throw away in the way that we have been. And I'm glad Trump is here to expose that to a certain degree. But he's not helping. He's not helping the common man, the general man, the steadfast, the ones who keep this country going. I don't see him actually being a help to those. No, of no color. It don't matter what color they are. So and the Republicans in general have banded together to push this agenda. Not that the Democrats are so much better. Everybody got their own little personal pet projects, it seems. But certain things aren't happening. We're not getting the infrastructure taken care of that keeps this country working. Bridges and roadways are not surviving. Um, right now, black folks, for the most part, are boycotting those that have changed their DEI policy. I know I have. And even when I go past these places, I'm seeing we ain't there, not in the numbers that we used to be. So I don't know what we doing, but it ain't that. And they got to deal with that. So they're going to have to see how they bring everybody back to the table too, because a lot of people have just pushed away from the table and said, no, thank you. But y'all can go ahead.
Right. This was a good conversation. I've enjoyed this. I know I know this is gonna be an interesting next couple of months. We gonna see some. I really believe in my heart of hearts, based on what I've been seeing on the news and all the stuff that's going on with the world events, with the tariffs. Not to mention, you still have Iran in the background because Israel is trying to get Trump, which Trump has already been helping Israel fight against Iran. So you got Iran. We still got Russia. We can forget about Ukraine. That's still going on right now. Then on top of that, you got the tariff war going on. Not to mention internal distress that's going on. The U.S. is at the brinks of having their own civil war. Oh, you okay, Gardis? I'm about to end anyway, but ultimately we know this is going to be an interesting time. So to close off, I'm gonna finish the last of this. It's like a minute left. Well, you know what? I think we're done. What do y'all? Anybody got any closing remarks before we go?
Yeah. So I think Dwayne made a point, and I think it was a valid point, because Michael talked about how a lot of the countries have turned against, the United States. And it basically is because of Trump. But I do agree that Trump has exposed a lot of the faults of this country. Its greed, its imperialism, its capitalism, its racism. Because there's a big racial construct in this, because when you look at China and how it has become a superpower, the last nation that was a superpower in this world maybe were the Moors in the 8th century. But for our country and our leaders to see a non-white nation become that big of a power is kind of troubling to them. And I guess there's this push of trying to charge Trump and his cabinet with insider trading, because if you remember the day he started implementing those tariffs, and then he held back on the tariffs, apparently some of his billionaire friends made money. There's a video circulating, I think it's on Twitter, where Trump had Charles Schwab at the White House talking about he made $90 billion that day. because when Trump reduced the tariffs to 10%, the markets went up, and a lot of his billionaire friends sold off. But I don't know if it was Michael or Dwayne that said this. This is all this is all for the oligarchs and the elites to have this war, because they're the only ones who are going to survive this.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who are going to survive this, because they're the ones who's causing this, and they're probably going to make more money off of this, which some people say they are. So, yeah, the little guys, the middle class, and the poor people, we're going to take a hit, and that's everybody from here all across the world. Everybody's going to take a hit.
Yep. And we all know that that's going to be the 1%. They got, and even the ones we would consider to be millionaires, not all of them gonna make it in this. I ain't gonna say make it, but they're gonna feel it as well. Because at the end, the most high God's people gonna make it through this. But yet and still, as far as in the midst of this, they coming for everybody. They coming for everybody from a globalist standpoint. When they go to war, they gonna make, like you said, they gonna make money, and they watch people fight, and that's what's gonna happen, and that's what we gonna see. Because
But I think
this is
this gonna be if we do go to war, this is gonna be a very devastating war, and I tell you why. Because really, really pay attention to what's going on. Like you said, Sister E, we got Ukraine over there fighting Russia, right? We got Israel over there fighting the Houthi, with low key, pretty much, AKA fighting Iran, right? Which we're fighting Iran too. And guess what happened behind closed doors? Russia, China, and Iran, they are all buddies. They friends. So technically, everybody's at war with the opposite side, right? We're in war with China through this trade war. Also, we're also in war with Iran, right? Which Iran, the Houthis are attacking the trade ships. So all that is affecting trade as well, right? All this is connected. So all it is just the next step of saying, you know what, man, America's causing a problem. We got to do something about it. And hey,
Well, the
that's just what it's
difference
looking like.
the difference is though some of these countries we're talking about have nuclear capabilities, and that's we haven't put that on the table yet. But the tyrant that we have in office would be the one I would suspect to be amped to do it. Um, and my understanding is we have enough of that type of weaponry to kill, shoot the whole world over about 7 times. So, yeah, as I said, as you said, the oligarchs or whatever you
Russia
call
do
them
too,
folk.
though. Russia do too.
I But that's what I'm saying. The one China does, Russia does, we do for the most part. Now, a couple of things that either one of these players can do, they can sell off some of those to other enemies of whoever they find to be their enemy, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's why China, uh, Russia, and Iran are talking right now. Everybody is focused on what America has done and put in place and played bully across the world doing for the most part. Russia was almost there, but what they've been doing for the last 2 years actually didn't work. Putin tried to do it. Putin and Trump, they the same type of animal to a certain degree, but Putin's a real
Yeah,
dog.
Russia's just jealous of us. They wish they could
But
do what we do.
Putin's a real dog, though. The way that he was raised, the way he came
That's
up in the
facts.
ranks. Uh, Trump is a paper tiger at best, you know. Um, and that's the issue with me. People are he like the Wizard of Oz. He playing tough. He not tough. He a punk. But you got enough people on your team. You got enough players on the board. You know how to move this money around and escape out the back door before the consequences come to you. That's what he's been doing every time. That's why I said, show me. I know he have all these businesses. Please show me one that was successful. One. I don't see it. I haven't been shown a successful Trump. Nothing. You know, he got enough to maintain them little hotels to a certain degree. He got enough to, as I said, do his golf course life. But he doesn't have a successful company that was ran even 10 years. That was a success story. None of it. So I don't still don't understand how he became the president and how they put besides as some of the things Guardians talked about, imperialism, racism, white supremacy, um, and people who have nothing else but that to hold on to, put him back in office. Plus all the tricks he did behind the scenes to be there, as far as I don't know. I just don't want to keep spinning. As you said, Sister E, this was a good talk. I'm going to try to listen more because most of my stuff is opinionated and I get it. But I don't think I make too many bad
You don't make any
calls.
bad calls. The thing
You
is
know,
this. The thing is this. Mike, the calls you're making is the obvious. We know, and we're gonna have that conversation about Christianity and how it's become. They consider it to be colonized. The conversation we had in the Sunday seminary chat. I said, okay, we're gonna have this conversation. I want to have a conversation behind closed doors though, before we have it in public.
yeah.
Because I mean, I wholeheartedly, a lot of things you were saying, Mike, I agree with you. I really agreed. I think we got to call a spade, and when you call a spade, makes people feel uncomfortable, and
Right.
it takes them outside of their comfort zone. It makes them question their theology. It even make them question some of the teachers they listen to. And when
Well,
you, uh,
but for us, that's the thing about it. For us, Sister E, because you've been my sister a long time, and
yep,
Goddess, you too. Um, if we're supposed to be studying, show ourselves approved, we're supposed to be able to ask these questions. We're not supposed to be scared, especially not of the leadership of this world. Please, you guys are supposed to be here to help us. You're not. And if you're not, a lot of them to me aren't capable of that because they just don't have the type of wisdom that's needed to be able to handle all of these different people and all the different ones coming to them for certain advice. They fall into certain legalisms a lot of times. It's a lot of do as I say, not as I do. It's a lot of that um going on with all facets of the leadership. That's why I've never tried. Notice when Berean was like, make your own channel, I never tried to make one. Cause I know, at least to me, I think, well, some of these things I think may be far fetched. I'm not trying to be nobody's leader. But let me listen to the information and see what I can add to the
yep,
pot. And if I'm wrong, you know me. I can admit that.
yep.
Most people can't though. They can never, I humble myself and I was wrong and I'll come back to the table and tell you, God has put this on my heart, this, that. You've seen me do that.
Hmm.
Tell me any of these other people that we deal with from your community, from Berean community, from the apologetic community that has done that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I can't
I think
I
we
just keep
can we
going.
can. I see what you're saying, and I think we need to have that real dialogue. We get so blinded by Christianity that we forget that some of the teachings we can't have has come from the oppressor, and we got to spit out the meat and the bones sometimes because the meat is just as tainted as the bones. So,
Well, because I keep it real, I'm gonna have to say on the from the teachings from the Hebrew Israelites, mostly their problem is pride more than
and
anything.
anger,
Well, yeah,
and anger.
well, pride does that,
Yep.
and revenge and all those things. Like I said, while I was spewing earlier, why would it just pop up on my feed? It comes daily, but Ephesians, the one that says, "Be angry, but sin not."
Sin not.
So
Sin not.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't know how other people's relationship with God is. He'll stop me. He'll pull me back. Like even with this whole thing, I'm saying we can put religion to the side. What can we do for our community? Because my focus is our community at this particular point.
Yep. Yep.
And
We've been.
I'd say above your religious affiliation at this time. What can we do? Because God gonna bring that part back around anyway. Anyway, to me, But what can we do? Because when I look at us, and even the brother Jerome, who I'm supposed to have this conversation with, the stuff he be putting up, he make good points. I'm not gonna say he don't. And I can respect a lot of that. I'm not gonna bring that into it, but I'm saying, man, we got issues
I feel like
beyond them.
I, I feel like as a people, we are at war with ignorance. Um, because like I remember watching, I'm from Chicago, and there was somebody posted on Facebook, um, these kids breaking into these stores, stealing all these products, right? And I just remember going to the comments and looking in the comments, and of course, it's somebody white saying, "Look, see, you see."
What happened with Dwayne?
I don't
Thank
know.
you, Zoomer Boomer. Thank you for your $25 super chat.
Oh, that's a good
What
look.
happened, Dwayne?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I guess I lost my signal. No, I was just saying that I remember somebody posted a video on Facebook and how these a bunch of kids. I'm talking a bunch of kids, almost like 1,000 kids, uh, downtown breaking into these stores and stealing. Right, and they got the police downtown chasing them and trying to catch them. And then I'm reading in the comments, somebody white post. Now you see every last one of these kids. You see they black, right? You know, and I'm just saying to myself, like, man, you can't even argue with that, you know, because I feel like it's no excuse for us to be where we at now with the information and knowledge that we have now. But yet there is still a whole group of us that choose to be ignorant. And that's the reason why we have the downfalls that we have as a community. And I feel we are at war with ignorance, you
Well,
know.
I'll say this. When you say these kids are downtown looting and breaking windows and all, that's good, but that's exactly how the colonizer established his society. He looted, he stole, he raped, he did all of that. And now he wants to pull back and say, look at me, I'm the civilized one. No, that's why I said earlier, I want to know what we were doing before we ever interacted with them. My understanding of some ways that African tribes and different things dealt with, they deal with the misbehavior of their youth. They would shame them, but it would be words. It would make them feel. They would make them feel shame for bringing shame on the tribe, on the people, on your family. That's what we've lost. If anything, we've lost that, the shame that you might bring to your family doing some of these actions. But if you look at the the administration who does their version of the same thing, but just use, pretty political words to do it, to steal from you, to take from you, to do you wrong, and then you expect these children who haven't even developed yet to see that and not try to figure out their own way to do. They say, hey, it works for them. Hey, that's how it operates. So yeah, I understand. And we have to also understand that all of us don't even think right. But it's a book back in the days. It's a book that I have somewhere upstairs that I really need to read. But I love her lectures. Dr. Joy DeGruy, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Everything we doing seems to be will fall beautifully under that heading. We are interacting from degrees of post-slavery, and yeah, that's just where I'm at with it. That's why I said I'm more worried about us. What are we gonna do? How do we get our kids back
Yeah.
if that's what we're supposed to do? Um, these are our children we talking about, and I don't want to just throw them out. And I say that, and I don't have the greatest relationship with my own children on some of this stuff, on some of the ways that the streets think, you know. So
But
so
I'm
what
gonna
do we
say this
do?
though, bro. I hope you understand this. Right? We can't declare that God be with us if we stealing, robbing, promoting high sexuality, not loving our brother. Right? We cannot want God to bless us doing the same thing, uh, like you said, that they community did. We're not going to be blessed to doing these things. So I understand what you're saying. I get it, but one thing I could say about my people, even when we were slaves, even when we was at the bottom of the earth, we was blessed. We are American culture, right? Music, dance, what considered cool. We made America, you know, and yet we're at the bottom of the totem pole. And I believe that's so because mainly because we're blessed. We don't sometimes we don't see this blessing because we want things that what God don't consider what true riches is. But we are blessed, right? It's just that in order for us to get out of this pit that we in, it cannot be in any form or fashion against the one who has been blessing us. I'm gonna be real. Um, because ignorance is our weakness. It's literally our weakness.
I can agree with that. And one thing about it is remember, it's only a remnant supposed to know that. But um, I'd also say, even though it's so funny, I don't use him as a reference much. But Tupac, he called it. He said, "We are hungry. Please let us in." Okay. Next time, hey, we hungry. Okay. Next time, I'm coming through your door, breaking the windows, this, that, and the other. That's where we are at this day and age with a lot of the youngsters. Hopefully, some of them are trying to turn. Some of them are being led away from um, justifying, as you would say, ignorance or foolishness or whatever. Um, but we can't deny the cause and effect of it is what I'm saying. And so let's figure out, since we are still here, some of us are still here, let's not just give up on them, give up on ourselves, give up on our children, give up on those who are chosen by him. And I'll still say, that doesn't exclude people of other races to a degree,
I
unless you
agree.
fall in line with the ways of the world and totally justify wrongdoing of certain people groups or in general. You know what I mean? So yeah, we should not be trying to be caught up like that. I have a song that I'm working on. It's called Kingdom Over Culture. I only made the hook. How does that go? Kingdom over culture, bring them to the altar. whether he's a prince or a pauper. You can see the sequel in the sulfur. It's. I'm a different type of rapper, but that's something different. But that's what it is. We need to get back to kingdom over culture, for us as Black folks in general. But everybody don't even understand that we're part of the kingdom. Everybody doesn't even understand. They mostly understand the culture because that's what they're around. That's when kingdom people reject them, they go into the culture because that's the streets, and they act accordingly. So we have to figure out how to do a better job on our end. I'll say that. Hey, Sister E, it's on you.
I'm listening. I'm waiting for y'all to get to a stopping point. I ain't want the brothers to stop talking. I think this was a great dialogue. I've enjoyed this conversation, y'all. I'm just sitting here just taking it in. I think everybody's saying the right thing when it comes to our community. One, we got to take accountability as a community, but we got to also not forget there was a system that was put in place that to cause some of these atrocities that's been put on us. When we had our own neighborhoods, when we had our own families, we did our own thing. We wasn't involved, and I'm gonna say this, and I've said it numerous times: the worst thing that could have ever happened to the Black community was integration. Most people don't like when I say that, but I mean it. Well, before we integrated into their neighborhoods, we had our own neighborhoods. We had our own creed when it came to dealing with our children and how we, raise them and how we discipline them and how we, love them. We had our own way of doing things as a community. And it wasn't just us, but the whole community raised the children. And we've got now where we've become separate rather than as a group because they trained us to think separate. That now, where are we now as a people? We were doing much better. We had our own neighborhoods, our own economy. So I think as a people, that came along with the heavy burden of going into integrated neighborhoods. We lost our placing as a Black family. That now, when you say Black family, we say, oh, everybody is a family. We're blood. No, we got to be able to work as a collective so that we can do better when it comes to other communities and just come to the realization we the last one in the door we usually the first one in and the last one in and the first one fired. But when we had our own, we didn't have to worry about that. We didn't. So with that being said, I'm gonna let everybody give their closing remarks and we are out. Dwayne.
Uh, no, I had nothing really too much to say other than I enjoyed the conversation, um, and I definitely will be back for the next episode of Sister E.
That's
But
all right, Dwayne. Dwayne always got something smart to say to me. That's why when I saw the sarcasm in the chat and I saw Dwayne, I said, that's my old buddy Dwayne right there. I can't go in a room without the smart remarks, and I'm just joking. But thank you, Dwayne, coming up. You're more than welcome to come up anytime, anytime.
All right, no problem, no problem. But that's all I wanted to say, and I fall back.
All right, Mike, my brother Mike, what's going on? What you got to say, my brother?
I'm hopeful after this conversation. I love all of the different positions and perspectives that we can put into this gumbo pot and figure out how to cook it up so we can serve it to our people and be nourishing and filling, and then we can spark these ideas that need to happen, to build us up, because yeah, we I believe we are the linchpins to make the whole world uh move and groove in a certain way. you know uh I think we are definitely essential in that way, and once we really get it together, and especially in the face of the opposition, and know how to do that, then everyone will be able to see that and know how to do that, and then maybe we can get to this glorious um world that could be, you know um it could be a better world. And I'll try to hold on to that. I'll try to hold on to that. It could be better, and I could do my part too. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. I am getting ready to go to bed. It is officially 12:40, past my bedtime. But thank y'all so much for joining us. I've had a good time, and I will see y'all on the next, I guess, live, which will be probably this weekend or later on in the week. All right, y'all. Have a good one.
All different type of information every week. Let me speak. If you subscribe, we going deep. Love talk, Sister E. God's work, Sister E. Charity, Sister E. Let's talk with Sister E.